A warm evening to our viewers at home and those of us in the studio. In your introduction of the topic, I think, Comrade Kwesi, you left out very important parts which are to do with tribal politics that is festering into our political space. The Kumawu by-election, like he has already said, all sorts or all manner of things happened at that election, as we could see on television and on social media. There were open, disgusting vote buying, as we could see on tape. There were comments, very unfortunate comments from people which were very tribal in nature and inciting people to vote on tribal lines, and all manner of things that one might not need to mention anymore. But when I was given this topic, I wanted to do a little research on it, but I found out that tribal politics and vote buying is not a new phenomenon in our political space. As to why it is there, or as to what the happenings of today are, you cannot fully understand them if you do not interrogate happenings of the past. That is history. You have to learn from your history to understand what is happening today, and then you can postulate possible solutions to a problem in society, and that's what every good student of politics or history does. Tribal politics and vote buying, my research shows, has always been part of us as modern day Nkrumah's Ghana, right from probably before independence into our independence, and the parties that came after, which most of our present day parties draw their origins from. So, like I'm saying, I'll delve a little deep into the history of most of these political parties so that we will see what is happening today and know that we shouldn't be surprised. It is instructive to note carefully that before independence, there was no specific place called Ghana like it is today. It took Nkrumah painstaking process to put together what we have as present-day Ghana. We had the Gold Coast, or the coastal states that stretched from western coast all the way to the eastern part of the country. And then there was Trans-Volta Togoland, there was Ashanti Kingdom on its own, and there was the Northern Territories. These were all independent of each other. There was the Northern Territories, which later became the Northern Protectorates, as I am told. So these were very independent, if you like, states that Nkrumah had to put together. It was not easy. It's also instructive to note, again, that before the coming of the Osagifo into this country, the only politically active and well-organized group was the UGCC. Now, the UGCC was a political party of rich merchants and African elites. We call it the Pagrans UGCC because today people try to take credit for it, but history is clear. At the time, these were rich merchants who were looking to improve on their business and to push out the whites or European elites. The idea was not to gain independence at all costs and to make life better for the ordinary people. So they organized themselves along those lines. It had nothing to do with tribe. It had nothing to do with class. It was purely elitist movement. At the time, Africans who were serving the army, the police, and most of the other forces were very angry because of how they were being used, or how they had been used in the Second World War. Cocoa farmers were equally unhappy with prices that were given to them, because foreign companies who were in this country were increasing prices anyhow. I'm just telling you the plight of the ordinary people at the time. And yet, these elitists in our society concern themselves more with an agenda rather than the ordinary plight of the people. So it was a political party that had its own objective. And if you look at their slogan, they kept saying, oh, self-governance within the shortest possible time. It was not about self-governance now. So all these happenings were taking place at that time before Nkrumah, or when Nkrumah had just arrived. It was the formation of Dr. Nkrumah's CPP that seek to organize the working class masses to rise above these ethnic, tribal, and territorial divisions, and to make the modern Ghana project a success as it is today. As an upper middle class person, Nkrumah himself committed class suicide and aligned himself more with the working class. He tapped into these vibrant groups, to form a more formidable political party which reflected the reality of the people. Now, Nkrumah knew that it was a class issue. It had to do with the class of the haves and the have-nots. So if you wanted to use politics as a vehicle to gather people, to gain power, and then formulate policies or tailor policies to, as it were, mitigate whatever their problems were, you needed to organize along class lines, not on tribal lines, not on ethnic lines, not on territorial boundaries. He also realized the need to put all these territories together and get a name, and so that we could, as it were, we could take our destiny into our hands as a people, as a nation. Unfortunately, just around that same time, there were a number of groups agitating around the time we were agitating for independence, or we had just gained independence, for a federal state. Now, one would ask, why were they asking for a federal state? It was because most of them felt that most of the major resources at the time were discovered within their territories. So one needs not to be surprised when a very important member of government makes statements to suggest that certain people from certain tribal or ethnic backgrounds are not supposed to lead. I don't know if you remember those infamous words from Osafo Manfo that leaked and became a topic of discussion for a very long time. That certain people from certain parts or certain regions should not lead this country. Some tribal and ethnic divisions, ethnically divisive political leaders also started advocating for this country to be called Akan Man, to wit, Akan State, which excluded most parts of the country. It is also worth noting that it was around that time a chief linguist in a very known kingdom decided to form the NLM. He was the lead founder of the National Liberation Movement. This was a movement that encouraged all Ashantis at the time to join, all Ashantis, not in quotes. In fact, the known activists of CPP there are quite a number of known activists of the CPP who were Ashantis had to leave and join the NLM. It was later found out that some of them were threatened with losing their tribal membership if they didn't leave. So you see that tribal politics is not anything new in our political space. Now, you would appreciate where some of the unfortunate comments are coming from in Kumawu. I heard a few young people saying, depending on where she's coming from, there's no way she would ever vote for, a certain political party, because she perceives that where she comes from means that she must belong to a particular political party. Around that same time, the Northerners also came together to form the Northern People's Party. Clearly, another ethnic and highly divisive project. I think there was the Muslim Association Party, the Angla Youth Party. So you would see that all these parties were springing up on ethnic and tribal basis around that time. In 1957, the CPP I think passed the Avoidance of Discrimination Act, which is CI 38. This was passed banning all parties or the formation of parties, political parties on ethnic, tribal, and religious basis. That parties could not be formed on those bases because Nkrumah saw this coming. This led to the formation of what was known as the United Party, where all these reactionary groups came together, because now you've banned all of them. So they came together to form a united front to fight against Nkrumah. And that is what has led us to where we are today as a country. The Good Ghana agenda was thwarted. The Good Life for the African, ordinary African project was thwarted. So when I hear people say this ethnic way of doing politics will lead us into problem, in fact, it has already led us to where we are today. And it is not a new phenomenon. Having realized the destructive path that we were charting, Kwame Nkrumah decided to introduce the boarding school system. It was a system that allowed students from Eweland to be able to go to school in Ashantiland, for students from, say, Wa to be educated on Fantiland, for Dagomba students, Frafra students, Nzima, Gan students to sit in the same classroom, share dormitories, eat together, do sports as brothers and sisters with very little regard for tribe or ethnicity. This coupled at the time with the already existing inter-ethnic and inter-tribal marriages, all were interventions that helped us to sustain a relatively peaceful and united front as a people. So, as for vote buying, we all know, and especially any of us who has been following politics in the fourth Republican dispensation knows from 1992. But the question again is, why do people behave that way? Why is it so easy to buy delegates and voters whenever it's time for elections? We must look at the structures that brought about the candidates themselves to be voted for. When we go for congresses within the political parties itself, a lot of the delegates candidates buy their way through the delegates. So if you endorse candidates at Congress because they have paid to represent a political party, what do you expect that they use to win the major election or the main election itself? Because elections in this country or holding political party for most people has become business. They are not in to represent us. And the kind of democracy we are practicing is what? Property, capitalist democracy, let me put it that way. It's a democracy that puts people to rule you based on what capital they have, because they control the means or mode of production, and they have enough capital to rule. So they put up a system in place and make sure by all means, if they have to buy, they buy to maintain themselves and maintain their power to be able to do their business. A political system like ours, which is not particularly driven by clear ideologies, is bound to confuse people or mistake, to confuse people, or for them to mistake who their natural allies are. Because if you are a steel bender, a carpenter, a mason, a laborer, or you belong to the working class, you have no business associating yourself with a party that says it's a property owning democracy, because you do not own any property. You understand? You own no property, so you should have a natural ally to stick to. But because our political system is not driven by any of this, it's very normal for some of these things to come up. Tribalism has become a very clever political tool employed by most politicians across the political divide to elicit votes. To elicit votes in block from people who hail from the same tribal or ethnic background with them. This they do without proper evaluation of the candidate, what his or his ideologies are, his principles, or what his leadership could bring to the people. And that is very unfortunate, because when you elect people based on how much they can pay you, based on the fact that you hail from the same political background, or what they can give you, then you have no business complaining about why the system is not working, because you do not assess them very well. You don't evaluate them, and that is very dangerous for us as a people, and especially for those of us, the younger ones. Every time you think about tribal politics, please take a minute and think about the Rwandan genocide. It should flicker something in your mind, because it's a situation that came about as a tribal political issue, or tribal political issues that brought about it. Think about the hell of Somalia, what's going on in Somalia and what went on there. The fear, or some fear, should grip you as it grips the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. We should not think that because we have been relatively stable for some time, nothing can happen to us as a nation. We can go down the same lane if we continue on this rotten path. All these were very peaceful countries, like I have said, and they are where they are today. I think my time is up. The issues are many, but my duty is to shape the discussion for all of us here in our homes, and then for the discussion to continue even after we have left the studios. I'll leave it at that, and then I'll come back to the microphone when I have to. Thank you very much.
Well, that was Comrade Najeed Yahaya, a member of the Accra Collective of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, discussing the Kumawu by-election. One of the aspects that he was discussing was the ethnic politics or tribal politics. And the day before the election, I was listening to Radio Gold, and there was a video, audio, of a young woman who lives in the constituency. And she was asked to assess the performance of government. She said, there are no jobs. the roads are bad. This government has done absolutely nothing for us. And then they asked her the question, so who are you voting for? She said, MPP, of course. I said, why? She said, yes, because I'm an Akan. And then she was asked, what do you expect when you vote for a party or government? She said, good roads, expansion in educational infrastructure, jobs, and so on. And then the question was put again. So has this government done all the things that you expect people you vote for to do? Say, no, they haven't done anything. Who are you voting for? MPP. Why? Because I'm an Akan. That's our situation. So today we are discussing the Kumawu by-elections and all of its implications. And it's now time to come to the studio so we can listen to our studio audience, their own evaluation of that by-election. And as we do always, those who want to make contribution and to ask questions, please put up your hands. So what we're going to do is that we're going to start from this line, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6. But please keep your questions and comments short. We don't have all of time. We have limited time. So we start with Comrade Azuma.
Good evening, comrades and friends. As I'm here this evening to talk about the by-elections in Kumawu, as said by the speaker. But before I say that, there's something very, very important concerning fire service. I want to bring it in before I say that. I beg you.
Keep to the topic.
But this one too is very, very important.
Keep to the topic.
Okay, good. Yes, it is actually true that there is vote buying in our political dispensation. If you look around, the parties in 1992 were not seeing vote buying like what we are seeing today. 1996, it wasn't all that we are seeing today. But today, the political parties themselves have made themselves to make as if it is a business. The parties is not like a business that they are making. Every young guy wants to become a member of parliament by any means. That is why people are buying votes to become MPs in parliament. And when you become an MP in parliament, your constituency, you about them. You don't care about them. You only go back to them after 4 years. I'll give an example in my constituency, in the Nabdam. The MP there bought the delegates 2,500 cedis each. The chairman, the secretary and the chairman had 5,000. The delegates, now the grassroots or the people, the general elect, they were then asking the MP, what you have done now? What happens to the general elections? Are we going to vote for you again? You? How will you win the general elections? Because you have given the delegates 2,500 each, and we, the ordinary people, nothing. So 2024 is a big case, a test case for NDC in power in government. Because I'm not sure what is happening now. Some of the NDC MPs will win their seats. They will not win their seats unless they do a homework very well. I remember in 1982, 1980s, Kwesi and myself were in Kumasi for a demonstration. We had a party called Popular Party for Democracy and Development. We were there in the demonstration. We organized the demonstration very well. People came in their numbers. And what they were saying was that accountability for, that means Rawlings was the in-law. They wouldn't even mind, they wouldn't vote for Rawlings. at all, whether he has married their daughter or not, do not vote for him. It's the same tradition that they are doing. So what is happening in the country now is they are buying the people. It's becoming a political party is now becoming a business entity. If you don't belong to any political party, you are nothing. That is why we see young people, young boys, running to become MPs. And when they become MPs, they are they load the power over themselves, and they will not listen to the people again. So I fear, unless there is a proper work by NDC, now from now up to 2024, they may have a slim parliament like what is happening in NDC, in MPP. We will not have this MPP will not, NDC may not have a full parliament. That is what I want to say. But the five several matters.
Yes, good evening, comrades, and good evening, viewers. I think we have misplaced our objectives and our subjectives as a people and as a nation. If you Google Kwa languages, an example of Kwa languages is Akan, Ewe, Igbo. We are all one people. You can only chain an animal at a different place and a human being at a different place. But once we are living together, we are all one people. And any leader who treat two different people differently, then that leader is a dangerous leader. So the whole issue now is boiled down onto the people. We have to open our eyes. We need a nation. And a nation needs road, food, work, and healthcare. And even if you go to the market, a goat, you can't get goat 3 million cedis. So if you allow yourself for a political leader to buy you cheaper, then thank you.
Good evening, fellow. The people out there, we are very grateful to Comrade Najeed. At least you've said so much that some of us, we don't even have much to say. But the only thing I want to say is that there's never been in the history of Ghana where tribalism, ethnocentrism has even reached that kind of heights than what we are seeing in our current situation. And it's very, very, very dangerous. I remember, and it's all around the news, that even before the Kumawu elections, people were complaining that Kumawu has never seen any good development, even for the past 5 years. But at the week before the elections, machineries and all those things were moved to the place to make sure the ground is made solid for the leading party. I think we can't continue as a nation in that tangent, because it's not going to help. When such things are done, it becomes very, very clear that a lot of people are alienated and only few people come into the scene to take care of the system. And I think we should reason as a nation. Kwame Nkrumah did so much to unite the country. Kwame Nkrumah did so much. He painstakingly and dedicatedly drew up policies to unite the country. And I don't see the reason why at this juncture, all these things, people could stand, and Ewe can stand in Accra and still win election. Kwame Nkrumah himself stood in Accra, now current Ododuodu, and he won the election. But this time it's becoming clear that no any other tribe can stand outside his tribe to lead the country. And that's very, very bad. We have to think and rethink about these things again. Thank you very much.
Good evening, comrades and viewers up there. I think I must compliment our discussor this morning, Najeed. You have really opened the topic to understanding of everybody here, I suppose. The topic is all about tribal politics, which you have also mentioned some problems that associate with ethnic politics. What led to genocide in Rwanda, and also Somalia. And in the case of Somalia, you can know that there was a country of homogeneity. There were just 10 million people that look the same, speak the same language, in fact, practice one religion. And you ask yourself, how come tribal politics creep in? So I think that should serve as lesson for a country like Ghana that is presently enjoying unity and peace, even if it is not perfect. But how did he creep in? Politicians, especially during election and campaign, they use one word to instigate one thing to the other, or this, and from the religion. They are all tribal politics. And if you ask me, it is the most dangerous thing that will happen in any country. The moment tribal politics is injected in, that country is heading to disintegration. It does not matter how long it takes. If you, Nigeria is a tropical sample, where everything is done on tribal basis, and the people supposed to be in competitive partner become rival partner. And it's better to be competitive partner in order to progress on. Rival partner and progress. So a country like Ghana and politicians should be very careful to avoid tribal politicking. Thank you very much.
Good evening, comrades. Well, Comrade Najeed, yes, the speech was very solid. So, yes, indeed, Philip Besso on the ticket of NPP demise. Now, the person who comes on board too is from the NPP. So, yes, tribal politics is indeed not anything new in our political space. If you look at it, ever since 1996, you know, the Secretary Kumawu is noted to be, you know, the NPP sort of zone. So if the person can perform good, regardless of his credential, political stability, and we still have to appreciate the fact of tribalism, then I think it's nothing good to write home about, because tribalism is a challenge and it's taking us back. Let us educate us all before I go and sit down. If teachers, the teachers who teaches our children in school, if you don't care which tribe they come from, so for us they can perform and teach our children when in school, why do you have to think about that? If I go to the hospital and I'm sick and I need a nurse or a doctor who to take care of me, I don't think about which tribe he or she is coming from, the ethnic background. Then I think that is in the right sense. So we should also put that in perspective in our political space, wherever you find ourselves, because tribalism in a nutshell is taking us back so that we can make progress. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, comrades and viewers out there. The only thing I would have to say now is, it's high time Ghanaians think for ourselves. This is not the hour to be thinking of who is in this tribe or that tribe. What do we actually need for this country? We need development. And to get development, we should avoid tribalism. Thank you.
Well, at this stage, we'll be taking messages from our social media platforms, messages from WhatsApp, messages from Facebook, and all the social media platforms. And it is my pleasure to invite Ivan Barnes. Where is he? Ivan Barnes. Where is he? So Ivan Barnes will be coming to deal with the messages from the social media platforms. Ivan, the microphone is yours.
Good evening to you, comrades. At this point, I'll take some messages that
We have. This says, Comrade, I'm watching you live from Naleregu, Gambaga, and really enjoying this insightful conversation. My name is Abdul Rahman, and I really do hope that a time will come where we as a people will look beyond a person's tribe during elections. This one says that I'm glad your team chose this topic for today's discussion, because it comes at a time where a lot is going wrong in our country. How do we vote for people only based on their tribes and ethnicity? How then do we progress as people? We need to conscientize the masses and awaken their love for the progress of our dear nation. This one says that great submission, Comrade Najeed. Right. This one says, I don't understand why Ghanaians will still have an interest in tribal politics. Can't they see what just happened in Sudan? Ghanaians are ignorant. Or okay, you meant ignorant. Okay. These politicians are joking and mocking us. They see us as nothing but senseless people. Ghanaians need to think. Thank you very much for your message. This one says that I'm really enjoying the show, and okay, kudos to you all. Right, thank you very much for your message. This one says okay, so let me quickly move to Facebook and see if there are some messages that this one says, good evening everyone, but I think politicians are playing with us as a people in the country. You didn't add your name. Okay, this one says that this is Comrade Jatuma. I love the topic of the day. Kudos to Comrade Najeed for this insightful discussion. Thank you, Comrade, for your message. This one says, oh, I love this topic. Okay. This also says that I have a question for the guest. Please, how do we navigate this challenge of tribalism and vote buying? Can you please speak on that for me? You didn't add your name as well, but I'm sure our speaker would obviously, tackle that very subject matter. Right. Let's see if we have some more messages coming in. Okay. Okay, please, it's a test line. Kindly do not call. This was good evening. I am Michael, watching you live from Kibi. I love your show and how the lady spoke. I think she's referring to Comrade Doreen. Right. So I think at this point, these are some of the messages that we have so far. Thank you very much for your messages. I'm sure Comrade Najeed would be willing to, of course, navigate these conversations that have come up so far. Thank you very much.
Well, ethnicity in politics, tribalism in politics, and so on. Where does it come from? I think that its main source is absolute ignorance. Its main source, one of its main sources is ignorance. And the other source is just the lack of ideas. I mean, if politicians knew how to improve the lives of our people, if they knew how to mobilize resources to build schools and so on, would they be talking about what language you speak and what you look like and so on? Certainly not. So anytime you find a politician whose emphasis is on tribe and so on, that politician is a charlatan and has nothing to offer. As if they had something better to offer, they will offer. Tribalism is all that they have to offer. And tribalism divides, it leads to civil strife, it leads to fighting and all kinds of things, you understand? Now, whether you are Ewe or Dagumba or Ashanti or Nzema, whatever you are, if you don't have clean water to drink, you will die. If you don't have nutritious food to eat, you will fall sick and you will die. if you don't have a system of education which gives you knowledge and so on, you will die from ignorance and so on. You understand? So our very survival dictates that we get some things done. You know, only yesterday, there was an accident on the Accra-Winneba Road, somewhere near Ochereku. Now, if you have traveled that road, you see all the signs, the warning signs. So many people died here in 1999. So many people died here in 1990. It's all over the road. Then there are signs which tell you to slow down and so on, you know. In fact, you have actually built a trauma hospital at Winneba because we think that there are too many accidents and that the victims would need some treatment at the hospital. Why haven't we improved that road? Now, between Accra and Winneba, it can take you 4 hours to get to Winneba. Well, it used to take 90 minutes to drive from Accra to Cape Coast. Why do our politicians do this to us? Everybody knows that the dualization of the road will minimize accidents, will make cars move faster, and so on. Nobody is doing that. When it comes to elections, and you go to Winneba, the campaign will be about who is a Futu and who is Eve, and so on. Completely irrelevant. It will not prevent the accidents from occurring. When it comes to elections, and you go to Cape Coast, you'll be amazed some of the issues that will be raised. The fact that this road, Accra Cape Coast Road, has not been improved all these years would not feature in the campaign and so on. So I think if we focus attention on the main issues of food, of housing, of healthcare and so on, we would be in a position to minimize ethnic politics. Now, something happened in the Kumawu by-election that has not been spoken much about. You recall that between 2 and 3 hours of the elections, there were complaints that officials of the Electoral Commission were asking party agents to sign pink sheets. What's a pink sheet? The pink sheet is the document which certifies the results of the election. Has everything about the election, who won, who got how many votes, and so on. Now, 2 hours into the election, people were being asked to sign pink sheets. What does that tell you? And these were officials of the Electoral Commission. Now I'm standing here and I'm wondering what happened to those officials who wanted pink sheets signed 2 hours into the election? Nothing. And if there's no punishment, they will do it again. Now think about it. The Kumawu by-election, there were members of parliament who were polling agents, there were lawyers who were polling agents and so on. And this happened. So imagine 2024, when we cannot deploy this caliber of people, what is going to happen in that election? Imagine what happened in the last elections and so on. I'm very deeply worried about this. Then we had also reports of the old woman who went to vote and her family people were going to assist her to vote. And the electoral officials prevented the family people from assisting her to vote, and they told her who to vote. I said, vote for number 1, put your thumb on number 1. Clear case of rigging, clear case of misconduct on the part of the election officials and so on. And then, of course, you know what happened a few days to the elections, how bulldozers were mobilized and so on. The Minister for Roads says, oh, we had planned long ago to do this. Planned long ago to do it. Well, now, if you go around town and you ask people, how do you get development in your constituency? The answer is kill your MP. I'm sure you've heard it. Yes. Unfortunate as it is, it tells the reality. Because if the MP dies and there's going to be by-election, they will improve your water. They will build roads for you. Hospitals which are dilapidated will see renovation and so on. So it does appear that the only way to profit is to do the unthinkable, is to do what is not correct. Kill your MP. Kill your MP. But MPs who then bring development to their constituencies and so on. So this is a condition, and it's a condition that we should not be too proud of. In the next few days, there will be another by-election. There will be a by-election at Asin North. And I'm a bit worried about what could happen in Asin North. Because I saw some things happen in Kumawu. I saw, for example, that there were 2 independent candidates. And it seems to me that those 2 independent candidates did not appear on the ballot box by accident. It just happens that all those 2 independent candidates were members of the New Patriotic Party. Agreed members. One was an agreed member of the New Patriotic Party. The other was still a loyal member of the New Patriotic Party, but ended up contesting as an independent. It seems to me that if you look at the last election, the independent candidate did so well that he appeared to be the main challenger, in this election. So what did the strategists do? Confuse the electorate. Don't bring light to the electorate. Send darkness to them. Confuse them. So you have 2 independent candidates with the same name. All of them, their photographs were wearing cloth. All of them originally, their symbols were flying birds. So, what is this? We should be helping the electorate to see light. We should be helping the electorate. We should not be confusing the electorate. But it seems to me that there was a deliberate attempt to confuse the electorate. And I think that's one of the most unfortunate developments in the Kumawu by-election. Yes, it showed that the New Patriotic Party was thinking, it was strategizing, it was looking at everything that it could do in order to win the election. But the objective was to confuse the electorate. I'm even told that the 2 independent candidates come from the same family. Quite apart from the fact that they have the same name, they come from the same family. Is this what election is about? Election should be about more important things. Election should be about our aspirations. Election should be about how all of us can realize our full human potential. Election ought not to be about flying birds, kente cloth, same name, and so on. That's a deliberate attempt to confuse. Now, brothers and sisters, I hope it's right to say brothers and sisters in this forum, we have very little time left, and it is my very, very distinguished pleasure to invite Comrade Najeed Yahaya to round up, and he has 4 minutes to do that.
I think all the major issues have been tackled, and most of your comments were more of contributions than questions, so I wouldn't have to delve much into it, apart from somebody who asks of the way forward. The way forward is clear. It's for us to educate ourselves more, because like Comrade Kwesi rightly said, in most cases, we are confused and we are ignorant. That is why the ruling class is able to take advantage of us. Because if you have an election where, in the 21st century, where people are still confused by names and polling agents are made to sign 2 hours, sign pink sheets 2 hours into election, it tells you we have a long way to go. If you have a situation where people still do not understand why they must vote for people who do not belong to the same tribe or ethnicity with them, it means we still have a long way to go in our education. If you have a situation where you are confused not to think for yourself and think straight, about what you need, and you cannot speak up, then we still have a very long way to go. So the way forward is for us to be clear in our minds, ideologically, I keep saying, of what we want. We have to understand that society is organized on, is constantly in a class struggle, and we must all understand which class you belong to. Are you part of the ruling class, or you are part of the working class? If you are part of the working class, you have no business entertaining ideas and ideologies from the ruling class, because what it simply means is that you are empowering the opponent to keep you where you are. You are empowering the opponent to be richer and stronger, which means you are wearing down yourself little by little. So each and every one of us should find a way to identify which class you belong to. Fortunately, we all belong to the working class, or at least most of us. And then we must work as allies rather than as enemies. Before I leave, I'll leave you with a quote from Dr. Chuba Oka Jigbo, who was a Nigerian. This is what he says. He says, if you are emotionally attached to your tribe, religion, or political leaning, to the point that truth and justice become secondary considerations, your education is useless. Your exposure is useless. If you cannot reason beyond petty sentiments, that you are a liability to mankind. So we must all learn to rise above petty tribal issues, petty sentiments, and take decisions clearly based on, happenings around you, rather than on tribal and petty ethnic considerations. I'll leave it at that since I do not have my time. Thank you very much.
Well, today we are going to end this program, Wednesday Palavar, in a very different way. And we're going to end it in a very different way because something very extraordinary happened this morning. First, I'd like to thank all of those who watched us and all of those who will watch us later. I'd like to thank all of you for welcoming us into your homes and so on. You make this program what it is. Please keep watching Pan-African television. Keep watching Pan-African television because we bring you the best in everything, best in news, best in sports, best in current affairs, best in entertainment, best in everything. Keep your dial here and enjoy Pan-African television. Now, it is with very deep regret that I mention the passing away this morning of Professor Ama Ata Edu, a well-renowned author who was a founding member of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. And I'd like all of us to observe a minute's silence in her honor as we draw the curtains on this program. A minute's silence, let's be upstanding, minute's silence in honor of Professor Ama Ata Edu, a founding member of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. You may resume your seats. May the deeds and thoughts of Professor Ama Ata Edu continue to embolden us, continue to lift us up in this struggle against exploitation and oppression in all its forms. See you all next week.